Adulting Club is a private online community for women with ADHD. Our common thread is our diagnosis and the desire to get things done. For just $1.99 a month, join us for weekly, midweek, and end-of-week check-ins. It's simple enough to stick to, but effective as hell. I used this exact process to launch my side hustle and stick to daily health goals. It totally works. To subscribe, visit adultingwithadhd.com/club. Happy adulting. This is the Adulting with ADHD podcast, self-empowerment for women with ADHD. If you've got all the business ideas, tons of hustle, and zero passion for your day job, today's episode might be for you. Our guest has an interesting career trajectory, one that many of us can definitely relate to. Allow me to introduce Jen Dzuira, founder of Get Bullish. Hello, Jen.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Firstly, thank you so much for being here. I don't think there would be an Adulting with ADHD if there hadn't have been a Get Bullish. So it's
I just did a little business blush right there.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to have you here for multiple reasons. Let's jump into Get Bullish. What is Get Bullish and how did it get started and how has it evolved?
So in the 2000s, I had a bunch of weird jobs. I started by having a web development company that I ran for several years and tried to take that really big, and it failed. And like when I say it failed, like the sheriff locked the door to my office for non-payment of rent, and then I had to walk through the window. Yeah, I was 23 when that happened. Like the sheriff locked my office, and I had some plants in there that just died because like the sheriff. I know. So, I mean, at 23, I was in no position to care for a plant anyway, but still. So it was devastating. I laugh as I say that, but I cried. And so my company failed. My first company failed when I was very young. And then I moved to New York and I had a bunch of weird jobs, which included nude art modeling and stand-up comedy and various kinds of marketing things, which was sort of the direction I went from that web development company. And so some of those things succeeded, some of them failed. You know, I was very business-like in my youth. So then I kind of had my youth after my business failed. So that was kind of fun. Somewhere in that decade, I was doing some test prep tutoring and then test prep writing, and I got really into that world where I ultimately ended up working at actually kind of a weird, timely note, but Andrew Yang's company.
Wow.
Yeah, Andrew Yang was my boss. He wasn't the founder, but he was the CEO at the time that I was there.
Wow,
I know.
That is super interesting.
Yeah, I have told some reporters have found me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to dish on my former boss. Anyway.
Right on. Yeah.
And Andrew Yang was actually the last boss I ever had. I never worked for a boss after that. So that's kind of interesting, I guess.
Nice.
So when I was at Manhattan GMAT and working for other companies in the test prep world, so I was, doing GMAT classes, like yelling at Wall Street bankers about math, which is kind of, I might have peaked at that point, yelling at Wall Street bankers about math.
Right.
Super enjoyable. Like my take on like, I'm aggressive, like I'm a coach, I'm coaching you to success. My take on that is like very touchy-feely to a Wall Street banker in general. So it worked out well for everyone. I was like, oh, I'm a hard ass, I'm a football coach, but for math, no, like I'm very, very nice. It's just a little side note, like I've written about that in other articles, like this idea of if you are sort of socialized female, you might have this idea that what you're doing is like really being aggressive and like standing up for yourself and like really like hard ass negotiating, and other people think that you're adorable. Like your barometer for like where that line is or like how to measure those things might be really different from other people's. And I always encourage people, even if you have no money, go to some kind of like meetup in your town for investors. Like you'll just meet different kinds of people, and you might not like them. You don't have to like them, but just like meet some other people, and you're like, oh, what I thought was hard ass negotiating is super not.
Yes. I can attest to that too from my own experience where you go back and maybe you apologize or something and like, hey, sorry, I was a little rough in there. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like,
right. I mean, and the reverse can also be true. Like if your, environment, like if your parents are both Wall Street bankers, like maybe your idea of being nice is not nice enough. And maybe you should,
right.
there are knitting groups available for all genders. There was a men's knitting group in Park Slope that popped up like 10 years ago. And I remember thinking like, I want more of this. I just want more of all the interests for everyone. Anyway, it's good to, especially when you're young and kind of just getting started in your career, it's really good to meet groups of people who are very different from you, and you don't have to like them. Like, not everything is about friendship or meeting your people or like identifying with things. Sometimes you just want the information. Even if it's information about people you hate, that can be really helpful information. Anyway, back to my story. Okay. So I was saying that I had all these weird jobs, and then I got into test prep and became pretty successful at that. And I, in fact, negotiated with Andrew Yang. Kind of a weird, we talked about math. Yeah. I know. So that was a normal story until this year, and now it's a weird story. So, I became pretty successful. I was authoring test prep books, designing curricula for other people to teach, and doing all this cool stuff. And I felt like I had really worked out some things about not only being an entrepreneur, but also working in a company with an entrepreneurial mindset. And I often tell people, if you have this kind of, you desire more freedom and flexibility and just the possibility of having a cool idea and running with it and being compensated for it, smaller companies can often be a lot better for that because they have that kind of freedom. Like, you're not in a salary band at, a big company where there are, 500 accountants who have the same classification that you do. Like, you can't suddenly start making twice as much as all of them because you're in a salary band. There's a specific structure to that company and how you progress in it. And that works well for some people, but if that's not you, and when you're in a small company, like if your job is receptionist, but you have an amazing idea that's going to make $1 million for the company, like you could be making $200,000, like, as soon as that idea works or more. If you work in a smaller, more flexible company, even like, kind of those companies where the person who founded it is still there running it, like it's their company, it belongs to them. They have the ability, if you just make them a lot of money, they'll give you some of it, and if not, go make some money for yourself.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I was around that time. I had these ideas, these things that I'm saying now, and I had no one to listen to them. And I made some notes on a napkin it was an actual napkin. I know it's like a stupid stereotype. Like, that sounds like an origin story that a corporate board came up with. Like, let's say she was on a plane and there was a napkin.
I just snorted. Oh my God. Yeah. Mine was on a napkin too.
It's a real thing.
It's a thing.
Even more so, I feel like if this had happened, if the story had happened in like 1999, I would have had an actual notepad in my purse. So I think that napkin writing is more likely to happen, like the less people have paper. Anyway, I don't know why I didn't do it on my phone, but I did. So I had a napkin for a book I wanted to write called How to Make Money Without Becoming a Republican. And I never wrote that book, but I have used that title for speeches. You can invite me places and I will give that speech. So a lot of what I talk about there is not just how to make money, like the making money side of that, but also a lot of people who are progressive have very conflicted feelings about money. And they hate rich people. They're like literally posting like "Eat the Rich" on like a sticker on their bicycle. But then they're also like, why don't I get paid for the things that I do? And you got to resolve those things in some way that works for you. So I talk about, like there are plenty of people that I'm sure you do approve of. You can just like Google, like I used to use Toni Morrison as an example. Like, do you have a problem with Toni Morrison? You do not. Google Toni Morrison net worth. And, that's the example that I used to use. But there are lots of other people who are just, think of anyone who's making who's really famous and making art. If you Google them and their net worth, like you'll see a pretty big number. And I'm sure you can find somebody who has a lot of money that you don't hate. I mean, even Bernie Sanders, like if we're going to go to, people who might be Eat the Rich, people who might be putting an Eat the Rich sticker on their bicycle, Bernie Sanders has a pretty high net worth. Like, do you think he's using it to do something bad? I don't think that you think that. So you got to find that kind of like wealthy role model for you. Mm-hmm. And I think it would also be totally fine if you said there are no good billionaires, but like it's not a problem that Bernie Sanders has more than $1 million to his name. So that's fine. So something along those lines, and you say, okay, like this would be fine. Like I'll stop when I get to over $1 million. But until then, having money just magnifies who you already are. That's not an original idea from me. That's a lot of people say that. Having money magnifies who you already are. So I think that if you're a good person, you probably want to have more money. And also, I think that colors some of my ideas about doing business with people who are kind of terrible. Like if you're going to do business with someone you don't like, like I once submitted a proposal to make a website for Philip Morris, and I thought about it. It's like the cigarette company. And I was like, okay, so I think I should charge them triple and like, do something charitable with the rest of the money. And like, if someone terrible has money, I should have their money. Like, the world would be better if I had their money. So I never made a website for them or anything, but like, I've been playing with this thought for a long time. It's sort of like, if you are doing work with someone that you don't approve of, are you helping them do bad things in the world? Then don't. But if you're just like being a personal trainer for like a terrible billionaire, like, should you be a personal trainer for a terrible billionaire? Okay, being someone's personal trainer does not help them like do bad things in the world. You're not like, helping them dump oil in the ocean or something. You're just like helping them work out their abs. So you should absolutely have their money. You should take as much of their money as you can. The world is a better place if, terrible billionaire's personal trainer overcharges him. So these are thoughts I have. So I'm glad I didn't make a website for a cigarette company, but I would absolutely, like help them work out their abs all day long. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm sorry, the story's gotten a little long, but I hope you find it entertaining. So
it's appropriate for our podcast. It's appropriate.
Oh, right. I am on that. I will get to the yes.
Yes.
I never wrote that book, but I went to a networking event, which is something I hardly ever do. But I went to a networking event and I met someone who was the editor-in-chief or the new editor of this women's website that was about to launch. And she needed someone to write career content, and we eventually hooked up and made that work. And so I wrote this column called Bullish for a couple of years on another website that no longer exists. And eventually I made my own website and kind of moved things over there. And the first thing I did that really made Bullish kind of an organization or a business was to found the Bullish Conference in 2013. So it's a conference for careers and business from a feminist point of view. And it's been going on. We're having our 7th conference right now in a couple of months, which is very exciting. It's been going on a long time. And honestly, that's a long time to do anything. I think I see a lot of conferences kind of come and go. So we've been at it. So Bullish is a blog. It is a conference. There is now a membership society, and there is an online retail store that sells over 5,000 different products. So I actually just work my office is in the warehouse that also has all of the hilarious mugs and pens and socks and things.
That is quite the evolution from a column and a website. That's it is. I feel like it ties into one of the things I talk about a lot, which is the MVP or minimum viable product methodology for starting. I know that sounds like those words come out of your mouth and it just is like Silicon Valley douchebag. The minimum viable product methodology. Yeah. So the MVP method is about starting a business without like going and making some huge ass thing that nobody wants. And, making a huge ass thing that nobody wants is especially devastating if you're the kind of person who has trouble finishing projects and like making a huge ass thing in the first place. Yes. Right. So you don't want to like go off in secret and be like, I will make the company or whatever the thing is. Right.
So the best thing to do. So here's the MVP in a nutshell. MVP in a nutshell is before you make anything and like invest your time and money, find the audience that you think needs and wants and can afford the thing. So, it doesn't have to be software. Like MVP people are always talking about software, but here's a normal business. Like I want to have a juice bar, right? Juice bar. Okay, so I say, I'm really interested in juicing. Maybe because you're interested in detox or interested in veganism or whatever. You have some reason you're interested in juicing. You're the juice person. So instead of opening the fucking juice bar and like signing a fucking lease and buying a commercial juicer, you know how much money all that stuff costs? You get a bunch of vegetables going bad because there are a lot of risks in a juice business. Juice sounds simple, but no, this is a complicated business. So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to talk to the people that you think will be buying your juice. If you don't know how to do that, then don't start a business. So that means you could survey people in the neighborhood. It could be like a listserv, some kind of like online forum for people in the neighborhood. You could stand outside the store you were thinking of renting and just survey people walking by. There are a lot of ways you could figure this out. You could maybe go to a vegan restaurant and talk to the people with the permission of the owners maybe, or just stand outside, talk to the people who go to the vegan restaurant and say, hey, do you think there's like a lack of juice places in this town? Some way that you could talk to these people who are supposed to be your customers. And you want to get information from them like, okay, do you think there's a lack of juice? Do you want juice? Like, would you buy more juice? Do you have money to afford juice? Like, these are all the things I want to know. And if so, why? Like, maybe the people in your town who want to buy juice are like brides trying to lose weight for their wedding. And it's not really what you had in mind, but like that's who wants the juice. Whatever the information is, like you want to know that. Maybe there are like executives in their offices and they don't want to go to the juice bar because they have better things to do than wait around for juice. They want the juice brought to them because they're so important.
Juice delivery. Yeah.
You never know. But you have to find those people and talk to them, because if you can't reach them to ask them a question, how are you going to reach them to sell them anything? So you want to find this audience of people. And, the juice bar example actually makes that sound kind of hard. But with some other businesses, it's actually a lot easier because you can just find them online. So if your idea is, I'm going to make websites for real estate agents, you can just email them. But the idea here is you're not selling anything yet. The idea here is you're going to ask them what their needs are and, eventually what they'd be willing to spend and all that stuff. And a good way to get people talking, and so it's not so much like you're asking for a favor, is to ask them about things they're annoyed with or frustrated with. Do you have a website, but it sucks? Tell me about that. Tell me about these scam artists who made it for you. Yeah. So, right? Or like, can you believe the juice over here? It's so expensive, right? So asking people to kind of complain about their current situation is usually a good way to get them to talk. It's also fine. You can offer people, you can make a type form, like an online survey, and offer people like a $5 Starbucks gift card if necessary, depending on what the issue is. So basically, you need to talk to a bunch of people and don't give them your idea. Don't say what do you think about a juice bar right here? No, you're going to say, hey, do you have a hard time finding vegan options? What do you wish those vegan options were? What time of day would you like to purchase them? You want to ask questions that don't give away what your idea is, because your idea is subject to change. So find out what people actually want and then just cheat and give them the thing that they said. The thing that you thought of might not be the thing that they want. And the whole point of the MVP method is do you want to express yourself or do you want to have a business that succeeds? Because sometimes those two things are different.
Right.
So, you see a lot of businesses that are about self-expression, people who have a boutique named after themselves, it's literally just their name on the sign. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it works. That's why we see them. They must be working if they're there. But a lot of times it doesn't work. People have this business that's all about them and it's about their self-expression and the way they want to do it. And then they have no idea how to even find a customer. So I'm saying do the exact opposite. Talk to the people who are your actual potential customers and who you're able to reach and who have some money to afford the thing. Find out what they actually want or even better need and just give them exactly that thing. And then the idea there is you're going to iterate until you get it right. So at first you might just give them, a small version of the thing. So you say, hey, I'm going to do a mobile juice business. I'm going to get a space in a commercial kitchen for, 1 hour every 2 days, whatever. You're going to find some legal way to do this, that you're going to, rent kitchen space from an existing business to make some juice, and you're going to deliver it to people in their offices at lunchtime. So you have a business that only operates from 12 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, where you deliver juice and you take your orders over email because you're just getting started. And the people who are working with you understand that it's a trial. It's a beta. Yeah. So do that. Yeah. So just, you tell them, be transparent about it. You don't need a fancy website yet. So say, hey, we're doing a trial of our juice delivery service. Would you like to sign up? Don't ask people if they like the idea because they want to support you. They're nice. They'll say yes. Ask them to actually buy something. Say, hey, it's $50 for the week and we're going to bring you fresh squeezed juice at your office. Will you sign up? And see if people actually buy it. And if they don't, just say, hey, it's cool. No harm done. Because I barely, I'm just trying different things. Is there something else that you would have bought? Is the idea that you only wanted a physical juice location, or you don't like to drink juice at work, or you don't like deliveries, or you like to go out for lunch? What's too expensive? Tell me. And try to get, just keep iterating till you have an idea that works. So, I feel like starting anything, here's maybe a note apropos to this podcast. Starting anything is harder than you think it's going to be. You have an idea and then you're the classic advice is take your to-do list items and break them into smaller to-do list items. So now you have 75 things on your to-do list. You're maybe I should put them in categories, or should I put them in order? Unclear. So
right. Yeah. And that's what I love about the MVP is it's so freeing. You don't have to come up with, reinvent the wheel or come up with something.
Don't do any branding till people give you money. You've got 3 people in town who are paying you to bring them juice at their office every day. Okay, now you can name your business and make a website now. And then ask those people if they have any friends, so on and so forth. But now you can start. But, you don't need to do any of that stuff until, they're kind of starting a business. Should I be an LLC? Jesus Christ. You should sell some damn juice. You don't need to think about this. Get someone to give you money first. Find something that people actually want. And someone who's not like your friend who's just being nice. Find someone whose need you are fulfilling. And they're like, fuck yes, I've always wanted this. They're giving you the money. Then you have a business. And then you can think about all this other stuff.
Stay tuned for part 2 of my discussion with Jen, which will drop in the next episode 2 weeks from now. And in the meantime, Jen has graciously offered us a 10% off discount at her store. And you would use the promo code ADHD podcast, and it's for purchases of $25 and up. And that promotion will be going until March 17th. So head on over to getbullish.com and check out her awesome selection of all kinds of great stuff. I've been using that store for years. It's books, planners, stuff for the house, you name it. All of it's very clever and stylish. And yeah, if I were you, I'd take advantage of that discount before it expires. And until next time, happy adulting.